So what are the expectations versus the realities for an immigrant business person in Canada? Well, click here on the subscribe button and set up the alert. And if the content of this specific video is useful, let us know by clicking like. Well, let's jump at the content. First thing is that idea that Canada needs immigrants. It is true, Canada does need immigrants because we have a situation where more people die in Canada every year than are born. So of course, so that the economy continues growing and we have talent, we have a labor force, we are able to fund our pensions, we need to keep attracting people from other countries. So that may create a false expectation that there is low competition. Say, hey, this is an empty place, very cold. They keep trying to bring people there, so that means they need me. Yes, the country needs people. The country would love to have more talented people, startups with new technologies. But that is true, but doesn't mean there's low competition. Let's see why. The reality is that it's very competitive, because there is a lot of very competent people from all over the world that are moving to Canada or are lining up to try to move to Canada or to bring their businesses to Canada. Actually, one little known fact is one of the biggest sources of companies coming to Canada is the United States, which is a very competitive place. Companies moving to Canada, they come from fiercely competitive environments. So under no circumstance somebody may think about, oh, Canada needs immigrant as being something, say, hey, so I'm not gonna face a lot of competition because they want me to go there, so they're inviting, they're opening the doors. That means we're gonna get there and we're gonna do very well just as a consequence. The second thing is that when people from emerging countries especially start to learn more and more about all the support and all the infrastructure that Canada makes available, especially to small businesses, people think, wow, everything that was hard in my home country seems easier in Canada. So I did pretty well, or I did okay back home, but because everything's going to be easier in Canada, I'm going to do even better in Canada. You need to be careful about this rationale, this line of thought. And why? Because when we talk about everything that was hard at home seems to be easier in Canada, we're not talking about really everything. We're talking mostly about the operations, the operationalization of a business. What do I mean by that? I mean the infrastructure that we need to run the business, the stability of the rules, the clarity of the rules and the procedures and the compliance environments, the existence of the abundance of talent, of a well-educated labor force, simple labor codes. All these things have to do with the operation. They have nothing to do with the ability to sell. And remember, of course, if you're a business person, you know that everything starts by making the sales first. You need to have money coming in the door, otherwise you cannot pay for anything else in your business, right? So the fact that to operate a business in Canada seems easier because when you go to Government of Canada presentations or when you look for information online, you see all these wonderful resources that are available to even very small businesses. We have that tendency to think that, oh, everything's going to be easier. No, it's not everything. It's just the operational part. So here's the reality. Selling in Canada is really hard because in Canada, they will expect your firm, your business to show track record. It's that dreaded phrase, what's your Canadian experience, right? You are expected to display, to understand deeply the market you want to get into and have a niche focus, very specific. You cannot be very generic. You cannot sound that you're good enough. You have to be really good at something very specific that nobody else seems to be as good as you. Right? You can't just be one more person offering a certain type of service, one more company offering a certain type of product. And the third reason why the reality of selling in Canada is really hard is because the decision making from the part of the buyer, in other words, the company that's going to buy from your business, it's a multi-factor and multi-people decision making. It's not like, oh, I shook the hands with the key person and therefore they loved what I'm showing. Now we're going to sign a deal. No, that's going to be evaluated by several people from technical and management points of view if bringing this new supplier on board really makes sense. So we have to be very careful when we think that, oh, all the great support that my business receives in Canada means that it's easier to find success. Yes, it's easier to operate the business. It's not easier to make the sales. The third thing that we tend to think, it's like, well, I've built this success before. I know what I'm doing, right? Oh yeah, we built this company from zero to a multi-million-dollar business in my country of origin. We already export to 3-4 other countries in the region. I've done this before. And then there is this expectation that I'm gonna repeat the success formula and it's gonna work again in Canada. It's gonna yield results. Here's the reality in Canada though. In Canada, we find a business community that tends to be much more focused on relationship with a technical angle, not relationship from just because I know somebody, I'm gonna make the sale. Relationship from the standpoint that I know that this company is solid because they sell something with a good technical quality. They're members of our community. They've been around forever. They're a good company. They're a good employer. We know them. So this relationship by track record as opposed to transactional, which is, okay, show me your deal, it's good, I'm gonna buy from you right now. It's not very transactional, it's more relationship. So for this reason, of course, it takes time to build a relationship. It takes longer than to display that a transaction is going to be beneficial. It takes longer to establish the trust needed to have a solid relationship, which is typically the base of trust, so you can have sales happening in Canada. The fourth expectation versus reality gap that we find here that is very pronounced, it's very real, is a very strong misallocation of resources. What do I mean by that? The expectation is that money will come, right? All I have to do is to hire a local salesperson that knows everybody, or an agency or a rep, and then sales will flow in quickly because I have everything ready, everything from back home, I have my track record, I have a great product, great service, great quality, great price, great everything, great track record in my country of origin. Therefore, if I just get the right person, the right agent, the right salesperson, the right contact to open doors, then things are gonna flow through the door more or less quickly. The reality is, yes, money will come. However, the money will come through an integration in the local community, again, by building the relationships. And that usually can happen more easily if you are innovating in Canada as well. If you're working with Canadians to develop parts of your solution, intellectual property, you're engaging Canadian brain power into what you're selling here, right? It's not just a matter of bringing a catalog and a price list and let's start to make sales and just put that catalog and that price list in the right hands and the product is going to sell. It's a little more work in terms of building a presence through a community, through relationships, through innovation, and then money will come, but it's later. It's not that money that comes quickly through I put my materials in the right hands and they make it rain quickly because they already have all the relationships, all the open doors, and I already have all the product. So that I see as a very big misallocation of resources. Why? Because people tend to invest money in that sales channel directly as opposed to investing money in the development of the relationship and the enhancing the presence in the local business community in Canada. And then what happens is that a lot of money goes by, you pay that salesperson, you may pay that agency, or even worse, if you don't pay, but you say, no, I'm gonna pay on a contingency basis, success fee. They only get paid if we make the sales. Well, then you follow in that other thing, which is that saying that says you get what you pay. If you're not paying, you're not getting, right? You get what you pay. But if you're not paying, oh, I'm only going to pay later, well, then people are not going to put the effort to make the sales for you. Okay? We have these two videos here that will add more on this topic, and you should watch them right away. Okay, good luck.